All right, we are on day 2. On day 2, we're going to finish this essay. It's long, I know, but we're going to get it done. We just written our first body paragraph. Now we're going to move on to our next body paragraph, which was focus on schoolwork. And remember, I talked about the pattern. The pattern of your body paragraphs goes like this. Talk about your main idea, transition into your first piece of evidence, say your first piece of evidence, but don't steal it. Don't say it exactly how the article said it. Elaborate on it. Give your own little spin, your own little extra bit of like personality to this piece of evidence. Then you transition into the next piece of evidence. So let's see if we can follow that pattern. Main idea is focus on schoolwork. So let me go back and read what I just finished. School is not meant to be a fashion show. It is a place for learning. Let's see. Learning? No, we just said learning. Let's not repeat ourselves. Education is the most important. Education is the most important part of a child's day. That being said, school leaders are trying to help children focus on only school. We can fix that later if we don't like it. So now we have to transition into our evidence. Before I decide to transition into my evidence, let's see what evidence I want to use. Some school officials support the policy, hoping that uniforms will encourage students to focus on their work. I think I'm going to use that one. So let's look at our transitions. So let's see. Furthermore, in addition, in closing, as a result, because of this, besides, by the same token, let's do incidentally. Let's do incidentally. I like it. And I'm just going to copy and paste this. Remember, we edit it later. Copy. Go all the way down. Incidentally, and now I'll paste it. Some school officials support the policy, hoping that uniforms will encourage students to focus on their work. Incidentally, we'll say school leaders, instead of support, we'll say get behind the rule instead of policy, hoping that uniforms will help students stay on task during the day. So we're saying the same thing, we're just choosing different words to say that. And this part can be hard in the beginning, so I understand if it's tricky. And don't worry about getting, a low score because you didn't change enough of it. This is just practice right now. So what we did in our pattern was we stated our evidence. So now we need to elaborate on what we just said. Can you imagine how difficult it would be to do well in school if there were bullies distracting you about your shoes or your outfit? So we're actually using an attention grabber there by asking a question. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to cross off the evidence I used. Use the little strikeout trick. Now we did evidence, we did elaboration. Let's move on to, we're going to transition into the next piece of evidence. I think uniforms help students focus on their academics and not the latest fashion. Maybe this one. Oh, yikes. It's a good thing I made this mistake in front of you on video. What did I forget to do? I forgot to give credit to the person who wrote this article. Fashion Do's and Don'ts, I believe, is the name of the article. So let me go down and make that right. Incidentally, comma, the author of the Fashion Do's and Don'ts article tells that school leaders get behind the rule, hoping that uniforms will help students to stay on task during the day. Can you imagine how difficult it would be to do well in school if there were bullies distracting you about your shoes or your outfit? Good. So now we transition into our next piece of evidence. It says, I think uniforms help students focus on their academics and not the latest fashion. It says this principle, which is a good one. Yeah, let's try that. So let's borrow this and look for a transition. Copy. Now let's see what transition we want to use. I think I want to use this in fact one. In fact, blah, 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 blah. So let's try it. In fact, comma. The one thing I forgot was, what article did that one come from? Fashion do's and don'ts. Let's do this. I'm going to paste it and rearrange it a little bit, actually. Cut this. Cut. Paste. In fact, Principal Megan Manion says that she thinks uniforms will help students focus on their academics and not the latest fashion. Now I'm going to add my credit that I'm going to give the author at the end. In the article, fashion do's and don'ts, period. Okay? So, do's and don'ts. In fact, Principal Megan Manion says that she thinks uniforms will help students focus on their academics, on their education, and not the latest, let's change this to trends, in the article Fashion Do's and Don'ts. So I've given this person credit and I've reworded the quote, so I'm not really stealing the whole quote. I'm just sort of summarizing it. Now we have to elaborate. Elaborate means kind of put our own spin on it, add a little bit of our own opinion after that without saying I. Let's see. In fact, principle, blah, blah, blah. It seems obvious that children would have an easier time focusing when they are not concerned and comparing, when they are not comparing themselves to what the other students are wearing. So did I tell my opinion in saying that? Yes, I did. Did I have to say I to do it? No, I did not. All right, so that was elaborating. I don't believe I have any more evidence. So now I just need to summarize and get done with this paragraph. This is why many school officials are pushing to have uniforms in their places of education. All right, let's do the conclusion paragraph next.